When I think of overwhelming darkness, I think of fear, isolation. I think of worries.
Darkness to me is powerlessness, anger.
To me, darkness is not knowing where you're going, feeling abandoned, feeling like nobody really cares about you.
Darkness, to me, is a void, not having any reason to go on.
I can remember a night when I was 7 years old. An extreme fear of death overcame my thoughts. Something had triggered the need to worry about what was going to happen to me when I died. And my thoughts began to go even further, worrying about how I was going to die. My awareness and understanding of what heaven and hell was very simple at the time. My mind was just driven to only be focused on pain and isolation and dreading what it would be like, because when I died, the thought was that I would be alone. I felt stuck, unable to make the thoughts stop on my own. My mind began to race and be consumed, and the fear took over, and it paralyzed me.
The day my wife, Emily, and I came home with our second child, Lucy, my wife went back to the emergency room. She felt like a person was sitting on her chest, and she couldn't breathe, and so I rushed her to the ER. I stood outside in the dark, cold with the baby, bundled up, until finally I got word that they were admitting her to the hospital. And went home. I told myself, just focus on the baby. 2 days later, Emily was diagnosed with heart failure. And that night, things got very dark. The lowest point was holding this baby and having the thought that she might never meet her mother.
Last year, I got to this time where things just weren't working out. My life, relationships, work, whatever I was putting effort into or doing, it just felt like I would take one step forward and 3 steps back. There were plenty of people around me, but it felt like nobody could see me. Nobody cared to ask or look to see how I was really doing. These dark thoughts would creep in, like maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I'm meant to be alone. It led to this life of being alone and a life of sinking into this darkness.
So I was married, and then I wasn't married. And it left me in this time where I was just not knowing where to put my energy. So I just went on about my life, doing my job, going home, doing my job, going home. But the darkest time wasn't her saying she was leaving. The darkest time was being lost. When I would be driving home after work and I would be feeling that emptiness in my chest. That darkness just grew and grew, and it got to the point where the idea of just not existing made sense.
And my dad, he came into my room and he saw the distress that I was in. And he drew close to me and he began to explain to me that the Bible does say that nobody knows when they're going to die or how they were going to die. Only God the Father knows that. And that God also doesn't want us to live in fear. One of my favorite memories is sitting with my dad on my bed, still holding me while I got to pray and ask Jesus into my life. And I remember that moment. I experienced instant peace as my fears were cleared away. And I believe that I was able to because it was God who allowed me to experience the same victory over death that comes through Jesus Christ.
The next morning, I really wanted to go to church. My sister-in-law said that she would take the baby for a few hours. So I came to the Coastlands, and I was just trying to keep it together. And I did until just about the breakout. Someone asked me how I was doing, and I just fell apart. I couldn't even get words out. I was blubbering, and he prayed for me. And after service, I received more prayer. And then I went to check on Emily, and she had just received word that her heart was perfectly fine, and she was healthy, and they were going to release her. Instantly, my heart was filled with hope and joy, and in that moment, I knew that God loved me.
I ended up connecting with this group of guys through an old friend that I saw at my sister's wedding. And right away I noticed there was something different about these guys. Instantly I felt accepted into the group, and they felt like brothers. It seemed like they cared, and for the first time in a long time, I felt hope. I shared my past experiences with them, and they started explaining to me how I had turned love into this conditional thing, how I was making it sound like love needed to be earned, and how that wasn't true at all, that God loved me unconditionally, and they loved me and cared about me unconditionally because I was exactly who God made me to be.
The truth is that I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm doing. I only know that my trust is in God. My trust is in Him for what's going to happen to my life. Even in this time where I might not have those answers, I have to hold on to all the things God has already done in others, that He has done as examples. I believe that God cares for me as much as everyone else. And that all these things I see Him doing in their lives, He's promised to do in mine.
And I got to choose for myself that night to trust in Jesus, that He could meet me in my place of fear.
I believe that the Lord put these guys in my life to provide the support I need and pull me out of that darkness and into His light.
Even though I don't know what I'm doing with my life, I have an example of how to do the things I am doing. And that's because Jesus came and was one of us.
Looking back on it, I can see that even in the dark moments, God gave me an amazing gift. Lucy's name, the meaning of it is light. And we had no idea at the time how true that would be.